The majority of the biased press has been silent about existential threats to the United States that are a result of their favorite political party's policies. One of the most grave mistakes made by leftists and their GOP enablers have been policies that have served to isolate the United States. We stand alone because under Democrats and Mitch McConnell Republicans, we stand for nothing. Democrats abandon American values, and the world abandons us. That's our observation in today's preamble. If you're a recent grad of GovEd, you probably never learned that France is our oldest ally. They aided us in a struggle for independence from the monarch, King George. But France is an ally no longer. The socialist who runs France, Emmanuel Macron, just returned from visiting communist China. Not only did he abandon the United States dollar in doing a transaction with communist China, Macron came back saying that Europe needs to cut ties with the United States. France appears to favor the world's #1 racist, genocidal slave state over the United States of America because China is determined to win the ideological struggle between communism and free enterprise, between slavery and freedom, between evil and good. China has no reservation about putting China first. Contrast that with Democrats, who put our country last and have just as much loathing for the United States as do our communist enemies. France wants to go with a winner, not a loser, a country stupid enough to put Obama's third term in office through Joe Biden. Of course, it was Democrats who knifed the French in the back first, undercutting a French submarine deal with Australia. Still, the idea that so many Americans died in World War II to liberate France and Europe from Hitler's Nazi regime, I'm sad it wasn't enough to persuade France not to throw in with the world's #1 communist power. But since Joe Biden's election, many enemies and former allies alike are siding with China after it's become accepted that Joe Biden and his family are bought and paid for by the communist regime. Most Americans don't feel safe under Joe Biden. Imagine how our former allies in Europe and around the globe feel. I mean, would you trust your children to Joe Biden? Not remotely what I meant. China is aggressively paying off several nations, building an economic and military coalition that Democrats seem ill-prepared to counter and Republicans have surrendered to out of fear of being called a racist or something, I guess. It's called the BRICS Alliance. The founding members are Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. They've all been inspired to leave the United States behind in favor of the world's #1 racist, genocidal slave state. Yes, America under Joe Biden and Mitch McConnell is that bad. In its current configuration, the BRICS Alliance boasts a combined population of 3.23 billion people. BRICS countries make up 41% of the world's population, and they also claim 24% of global GDP. They are already abandoning the U.S. dollar in favor of China's yuan, a direct threat to the United States. But the Democrats and their GOP enablers are focusing on those who they perceive who are the real threats. Well, that would be us, pro-American, God-fearing Christians. Obama's first regime began laying down the predicate for criminalizing conservatives. If you opposed abortion on demand, if you opposed illegal immigration, if you opposed lawlessness, Team Biden labeled you a right-wing extremist. Fast forward to Obama's second regime in Joe Biden's name, and the failed Supreme Court nominee Merrick Garland labeling concerned parents terrorists for objecting to the gender confusion, hate whitey smut, and LGBTQ ABCDFG cultural Marxism that's being pushed in GovEd. Now left-wing judges. They are building on this narrative over news. 2 teachers challenging the constitutionality of being compelled to take so-called anti-racism training have been ordered to pay nearly $313,000 in legal fees. The ruling by an Obama judge, who could have seen that coming, is being blasted as overtly hostile and meant to scare off future lawsuits against government by parents and teachers. The Southeastern Legal Foundation is appealing the U.S. District Judge Douglas Harpool's summary judgment because teachers are tired of being called racist in training courses allegedly designed to stop racism, but actually they're instilling. The courses claim they want to prevent racism, but in this case, they're actually teaching racism against whites. During Holy Week, the Democrats continue their jihad against Christians by banning Catholic priests who were ministering to those convalescing at Walter Reed Medical Center. Joe Biden, who is a fake Catholic, refused to comment on this open attack on the church he claims to belong to. Meanwhile, Joe Biden's FBI has been busy trying to undermine and destroy the Catholic Church from within, much like Pope Francis is doing. Congressman Jim Jordan's investigation into our weaponized, untrustworthy FBI revealing that Christopher Wray allegedly used an undercover agent to target the clergy and leadership of the Catholic Church. But while all of this is going on, Democrats have unleashed deadly attacks on our people, and the compromised alphabet soup agencies still refuse to issue a warning of left-wing extremism that is killing Americans. In Louisville, Kentucky yesterday, a crazed former bank employee who used he/him pronouns gunned down 5 people. Police ended up killing the man, who apparently was a person who hated President Trump. The shooter, who doesn't deserve to be remembered and will not be named here, posted an anti-Trump cartoon accusing President Trump of being racist, just like the folks at MSNBS and CNN and the radical left do. Despite the evidence, the mounting evidence of the threat the left wing poses, our government maintains the fiction that it's law-abiding Christians who are the biggest threat to America. The facts say otherwise. From the San Antonio shooter to the recent spate of trans shooters to the Tennessee insurrection, the left is on a violent rampage, protected by a left-wing media, dishonest Democrats, and timid Republicans. In the wake of the Nashville trans shooting, gunning down 6 Christians, including 3 children, as stated, leftists committed an insurrection of the Tennessee legislature, demanding that law-abiding Americans have their Second Amendment rights stolen because another left-winger snapped. Some Democrats who participated in the insurrection were removed from the legislature. That prompted a number of leftists to threaten to burn Tennessee to the ground. Biden's failed border czar even showed up to pour gasoline on the fire.
It was about who they were representing. It's about whose voices they were channeling. Understand that. And is that not what a democracy allows?
It looks like the threats of more left-wing violence actually worked. Cowardly Republicans in Tennessee have pulled a Mitch McConnell. They pulled a John Cornyn by caving in to Democrats, reinstating insurrectionists to the Tennessee legislature. America's allies are peeling away from us because they know a divided House cannot stand. You see, we're cursed with a party that has more in common with Xi Jinping than George Washington. We are saddled with an alleged opposition party, the Republicans, who prize kissing the collective rear ends of Democrats more than protecting their voters from the abuses of those Democrats. Frankly, what nation would want to partner with an American people who have forgotten who we are? We used to be a moral, just, free, and prosperous people. To summarize, the USA has a failed 2-party system made up of one party committed to America's destruction and another party committed to watching them do it. Republicans and Democrats have teamed up to make America the world's #1 dispensable nation. And that threatens all people who yearn to breathe free.